The barking wouldn't stop. It pierced the quiet nights of Maplewood, a once sleepy town nestled in the shadow of pine-covered hills. At first, people thought it was just a stray, hungry, scared, maybe dumped by someone cruel. But by the third night, even the bravest hearts on Pine Hollow Street started locking their doors tighter. Every evening, just after the sun dipped behind the hills, it would begin again. A single bark. Loud. Repetitive. Desperate. Outside the old Grayson house, abandoned for over a decade, a thin, scruffy dog sat motionless during the day, its ribs showing, its eyes watching the front door like a soldier on guard. But once darkness fell, it howled into the night like it was warning the world, or begging someone to listen. Most ignored it. Some pitied it. Only one person called the police. When Officer Sarah Molina pulled up on the fifth day, she expected to find a malnourished dog and maybe some illegal squatters. What she didn't expect, what made her freeze halfway up the porch steps, was the way the dog stopped barking the moment she arrived, and turned to look at her. Not with fear. Not with hope. But with urgency. And then she heard it. From deep inside the boarded-up house, muffled by rotting wood and silence, came a sound that made her blood turn to ice. A cry. Human. Faint. Help, me. Officer Molina didn't move. The cry from inside the house had been so faint, so ghostly, she questioned if it was even real. But the dog stared at her like it had waited years for someone to hear it. "Dispatch, this is Officer Molina," she said into her radio, her voice low and tense. "I'm at the Grayson property on Pine Hollow. I believe there's someone inside. Requesting backup and EMS on standby." She approached the porch slowly. The wood groaned under her boots, warped and brittle from years of rain and neglect. The front door was sealed shut with thick boards, but the side entrance, half covered in ivy and shadow, was easier prey. She drew her flashlight, the beam slicing through the murky interior. The air smelled like mold and decay. But underneath that, was something worse. Blood. The beam of her flashlight swept across a shattered frame, overturned furniture, and newspapers from 2012. The last known residents, the Graysons, had vanished without a trace 14 years ago. The house had sat untouched since, a place teenagers dared each other to approach and neighbors refused to discuss. But someone had been here, recently. Scratches lined the inside of the hallway walls. Nails. As if someone had tried to claw their way out. The sound came again, clearer this time. A whisper of agony. "Please, down here." She followed it to the basement door, half open. The dog stood beside her now, silent, rigid. It didn't growl or bark. It simply stared at the door, then at her. Molina descended the stairs. Each creak was louder than the last. The air grew colder. And then her flashlight flickered, then died. She pulled her gun instinctively. "Police. If you're down here, make a sound." A faint rustle. Then, out of the darkness, a whisper. "You shouldn't have come." And behind her, the door slammed shut. The basement plunged into pitch darkness. Officer Molina's breath caught in her throat as the door slammed above her. She spun around, flashlight still dead, gun raised in trembling hands. Her pulse thundered in her ears. The silence that followed was more terrifying than any scream. Then, a scuffle. Quick. Close. She whipped around. "Show yourself." A shape moved in the dark. She could hear it breathing, raspy, irregular, like whoever it was hadn't taken a full breath in days. Her voice cracked. "Are you hurt? I heard you calling for help." Silence. She pulled out her phone, using the weak screen light to scan the space. The beam trembled over damp walls, broken pipes, and then, eyes. A face. Pale. Sunken. Human. But barely. A young woman huddled in the corner, her wrists raw from rope burns, her lips cracked. She shielded her eyes from the light, trembling. You're real?" the girl whispered. Yes. My name is Officer Molina. I'm here to help you. What's your name? The girl didn't answer right away. Her gaze drifted past Sarah, toward the ceiling. They said no one would come, she muttered. But the dog, he didn't leave me. Sarah knelt beside her, already dialing for emergency support. You're going to be okay. Just hang on. The girl gripped her wrist suddenly, fiercely. You don't understand. They're still here. A thump from upstairs. Molina froze. Another thump, heavier. Closer. The girl's lips quivered. They think I'm still hidden. They think the dog failed. What do you mean they? Molina whispered. But she already knew, the house wasn't abandoned. It had never been abandoned. There was more than one person in the house. And Officer Molina wasn't alone anymore. Officer Molina helped the girl to her feet, but every step was agony. The basement stairs loomed like a death trap, but they had no choice, staying below meant surrendering to whatever was stalking above. She moved slowly, gun raised, cradling the girl with one arm. At the top, the door was locked from the outside. Someone had known she went in. She cursed under her breath and backed away, heart hammering. The girl trembled beside her. I was kept here for weeks, she whispered. I don't know how long. They fed me just enough to keep me alive. But then the man left, and never came back. What man? I don't know his name. I only ever saw the dog. That stopped Sarah cold. You're saying the dog? The girl nodded. He never left the house. Never barked. Until a few days ago. It was like, he finally gave up on the man. And started calling for someone else. Something inside Sarah shifted. That dog hadn't just been persistent, he'd been grieving. Warning. Guarding. Thud. A slow step overhead. The sound of boots. Not fast. Deliberate. Sarah aimed her gun at the ceiling, stepping back toward the shadows. The girl shrank into the wall, lips pressed shut. Then, just as suddenly, the back door creaked open. The dog. It slipped through the hallway, quiet as a ghost, and stared straight at Sarah. Then it growled, low and guttural, not at her, but at the ceiling. Another step. Then a voice. You should have stayed out, officer. Sarah grabbed the girl's hand and bolted. The dog barked and took the lead, running through the hallway, through the back door, the overgrown garden giving way to open air. Just as Sarah stepped through, a gunshot rang out behind them. They ducked. The dog yelped, but didn't stop running. They didn't either. They didn't stop running until they reached the tree line behind Pine Hollow. Officer Molina's backup was already on the way, but she didn't dare stop until she saw the flashing lights in the distance. The dog limped beside them, injured, but alive. The girl collapsed into a medic's arms. Sarah turned, gun still drawn, scanning the woods for any sign of the shooter. But no one followed. 2 hours later. The Grayson house was swarming with police, forensics, and flashing lights. Officer Molina sat with a blanket over her shoulders, staring at the dog. He hadn't left the girl's side once. His name, she now knew, was Ranger. And he hadn't barked to annoy the neighbors. He'd been calling for help. 3 days later. The truth unraveled like a nightmare. The man who had held the girl captive, a drifter named Daniel Croft, had once worked construction on the Grayson house years ago. When the family vanished, so did he. The original investigation hit a dead end. But he had stayed, hidden beneath the floorboards, behind false walls, in the deep rot of the house that no one dared enter. Over the years, people disappeared. Mostly women. No one connected the dots. Except Ranger. He had belonged to the original family. When they vanished, he stayed. For 14 years, he guarded that house. Waited. Watched. Survived. They found bones beneath the house. Clothes. IDs. Names that had long since been called into silence. And among them, a collar. Ranger's old one. He had been chained there once too. But somehow, he'd gotten free. And he never ran away. 1 week later. Sarah stood outside the shelter, waiting. The girl, Mia, was safe now. In care. Healing. And Ranger? He sat beside her, tail still, eyes alert. She knelt beside him and whispered. You saved her. You never gave up. He leaned his head into her chest. And for the first time since she met him, he wagged his tail. Final line. Sometimes, heroes don't wear badges. Sometimes, they have paws, and the courage to never stop barking.